deported. People of color, American citizens who are brown, who are yellow, who are black, et cetera, stand up.
To destroy our country
well, the gentleman
related to terrorism. I will not yield to you on this subject, period.
Well,
it's offensive if you can't tell.
Thank you.
Silence, the time is mine.
You just saw
what it looks like
one
when
side of Congress standing up for the men and women enforcing the law, and the other side practically calling those officers terrorists. Maxine Waters went all the way there, painting ICE like some rogue army smashing windows and terrorizing communities. Meanwhile, Warren Davidson stepped in and basically said, "Hold on. Enforcing immigration law is now terrorism." That's the level of political theater we're dealing with. The hypocrisy here is unbelievable. The same politicians who scream about lawlessness are now attacking the very agents trying to restore order. If that doesn't make your blood boil, you haven't been paying attention. Hit like, hit subscribe, and stay right here. Let's watch the full clip before I give you the full
Trump is having
breakdown.
thousands of ICE agents descend on our cities, using brutal force to hunt, harass, and harm those in our communities. Whether intended or not, U.S. citizens and their businesses and property, shop holders and small business owners who are American citizens are caught in the middle of the reckless and inappropriate responses of ill-trained ICE agents, only to be left with broken windows and damaged storefronts to repair. Who pays for this? Workers and families, also U.S. citizens, drive home at the end of the day only to be snatched out of their cars by masked men with tactical gear and wind up with their windows smashed in. Who pays for this? This Sunday in St. Paul, Minnesota, over a dozen ICE agents broke down the front door of a napping U.S. citizen. They forced and trampled their way into his home, pointing their guns and yelling at his family, while this 4-year-old grandson cried. Republicans on the opposite side of the aisle, you can do better than this. You can stand up for Ms. Good, who was killed, the mother of 3, an American citizen, other American citizens, people who look like they think should be deported, people of color, American citizens who are brown, who are yellow, who are black, et cetera, stand up for the citizens of this country. Otherwise, you're going to see a civil war that is being created between ICE and the National Guard.
Jesus said we can be angry and not sin, so I'm going to give it my best shot right here. The amount of red herrings and false stuff that's being spewed for the premises behind this amendment is offensive. To tell the American people and us in this room that ICE is a terrorist organization and therefore TRIA should cover the losses? Are you freaking kidding me? If you look at the proximate cause, you talk about the laws not being followed. The previous administration fueled an invasion of our country by failing to secure our borders, by ignoring our laws, and now we have sanctuary cities who invited these people in, who served as accomplices to the crime, continuing to obstruct justice. The reality is Alejandro Mayorkas and all of his accomplices should be on trial today. And if we don't put them in jail for a really long time after due process and a trial, some future administration is going to think they can fuel an invasion, only we need to do more of it faster. Now you get mad because ICE is enforcing the laws that the previous administration failed to enforce and want the government to cover for your game. The invasion you're fueling of our country, it's treason. It's treason. And it's a complete waste of this committee's time to even bring it up, to try to grandstand over your fake agenda to destroy our country
Well, the gentleman
related to terrorism. I will not yield to you on this subject, period.
Well, thank
It's
you for being
offensive if you
thank
can't
for being
tell.
A gentleman. Thank you for being a
Silence, the
gentleman.
time is mine.
Thank you
The
for
time
being a
belongs to
gentleman.
the
I don't care whose time it is.
The gentleman, order.
Remember
Lady-
January 6th.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time belongs to the gentleman from Ohio.
TRIA is a program that I support. Every contract I've entered into has a force majeure clause. And there are acts that are unanticipated, that are hard to insure the risk for. I don't think the program's perfectly designed. I wish I was here for the debate. Mr. Rose presented his amendment. I don't think I agree with the points, but I do think, hey, we probably don't have a perfect terrorism risk insurance program, but I applaud Mr. Flood, Mr. Cleaver for working together on a reauthorization. That's what we should be focused on today. The idea that we would defund ICE is probably about as dumb as defunding the police, but Minneapolis wanted to do both. And so, yes, I hope those people are held accountable. But the Financial Services Committee is not the committee of jurisdiction for that. So if you want to do that, go to one of the other committees, do your grandstanding somewhere else, and quit wasting our time in this committee. I yield back.
All right,
Now let's
now
talk
that
about
you've
what-
seen the whole thing, let's be honest about what just happened. Warren Davidson absolutely torched the argument being pushed by Maxine Waters. Because calling ICE a terrorist force isn't just wrong. It's insulting to every federal officer who puts on that badge and enforces the law of the United States. Think about the logic here. Democrats spent years telling Americans that border enforcement was cruel, that immigration laws were somehow optional, that sanctuary cities should ignore federal authority. And now that agents are actually doing their jobs, suddenly it's terrorism. That's not an argument. That's political gaslighting. Davidson called it exactly what it was. A red herring. The real issue isn't ICE doing enforcement. The real issue is the chaos that came from years of ignoring immigration law in the first place. When a government refuses to secure its border, invites millions of people in through weak enforcement, and then blames the officers cleaning up the mess, that's not justice. That's political blame shifting. And here's where Davidson really flipped the table. Instead of letting Democrats paint ICE as the villain, he pointed the spotlight back at the policies that created the crisis. Sanctuary cities protecting illegal activity. Federal leadership refusing to enforce the law. And then acting shocked when enforcement finally shows up. The moment Waters started throwing around warnings about civil conflict between ICE, the National Guard, and communities, you could feel the room tighten. Because that kind of language isn't policy debate, it's escalation. And Davidson's response cut right through it. Defunding ICE, he said, is about as dumb as defunding the police. And honestly, that line landed because Americans have already seen what happens when you demonize law enforcement and strip away authority. But here's the bigger picture. This wasn't just a shouting match in Congress. This was two completely different visions of the country colliding head-on. One side sees enforcing immigration law as oppression. The other side sees it as basic national sovereignty. And Davidson stood firmly on the side that says a nation without borders isn't a nation at all. That's why this exchange matters. Because behind the drama, the accusations, and the theatrics, there's a very simple question. Do we enforce the law, or do we attack the people enforcing it? Warren Davidson made his answer crystal clear.